You probably know what Pokemon is. You know about the games, the anime, the cards, all that stuff. But did you know about the manga? No, not that one. Pokemon Adventures, also known as Pokemon Special in Japan, is a long-running manga based on the Pokemon video games. Written by Hidenori Kusaka and illustrated by Mato in the beginning and Satoshi Yamato later. The books take the plots of the games and adapt them into stories which, in my opinion, put both the games and the anime to shame. If you're a Pokemon fan and you haven't read these books, I highly recommend you go read them. Not only because they're amazing, but also because I'm about to completely spoil the first arc. First, I'll go over the story of the first arc, which adapts most of the plot from the original Red and Blue games. After that, I'll go over what makes me think the series is so great. But first, this video is sponsored by me. Before I start, I just want to say please remember to subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel so I can pay off my college debt. Alright, yeah, let's get into it. Volume 1 starts off with a bunch of kids trying to catch a Nidorino. After they fail, Red shows up and catches it for them. He claims to be the strongest trainer in Pilot Town, but the kids say Professor Oak's grandson just got back from a long time training and he's actually the strongest. Red literally walks into a Team Rocket grunt and overhears them talking about a mysterious phantom Pokemon. Now they don't know that it's Mew, but it's very obviously Mew. Red goes off into the woods to try and catch it before the grunts do, but runs into Blue, who's already fighting it. Blue calls off his Charmander and Red jumps in only to get beaten quickly by the Mew. Blue taunts Red and leaves as he sits there awestruck that he was beaten. After this, Red goes to Oak's lab for advice, only for Oak to think he's a thief, and Red accidentally releasing all of Oak's Pokemon. Oak literally gets shit on by a Pidgey. Red and Oak then go around and reclaim all the lost Pokemon, except for Bulbasaur, who ran off to the abandoned Vermillion City gym. Red tracks Bulbasaur inside and bonds with it a bit before him and Oak are attacked by a wild Machoke, which just lives in this abandoned gym for whatever reason. Red uses quick thinking and his new bond with Bulbasaur to take it down with a solar beam. After Oak sees that Red just figured out Bulbasaur's attacks, he gives him a Pokedex and sends him off on a quest to become a great Pokemon trainer. We next see Red wandering around in Viridian Forest, and he runs into Blue. Blue laughs his ass off when he sees that Red got a Pokedex. Eventually, a Kangaskhan appears, and Blue tries to catch it, but Red notices that something's off. It's protecting a sick baby. He butts into the fight and tries to save it, and Blue gets pissed off. He had the chance to catch Kangaskhan, but Red stopped him. And Red's all like, "Oh, come on, Blue, you gotta fight fair. It's not really a real victory if you're not on equal playing fields." And so the two finally tell each other their names, and Red's like, "You're my rival now." A bit later, Red arrives in Pewter City and sees a wanted poster for a Pikachu. Eventually, after a bit of shenanigans, Red catches the rowdy Pikachu and tries to tame it. Pikachu is not having any of it. Obviously a nod to the anime. Blue shows up and mocks Red for not even being able to tame a Pikachu, and also challenges him to win the Boulder Badge. The Pokemon Center was trashed by some gang of thieves, and so Red's only Pokemon with full health is Pikachu. In the Pewter City gym, Red has to use Bulbasaur and Poliwhirl on low health to finish every battle in one hit, because Pikachu just won't listen to him. By the time Red gets to Brock, Bulbasaur and Poliwhirl are out of power, and Pikachu's the only one who can fight. Pikachu's pissed and just attacks Red instead, but when Red saves Pikachu from one of Onix's attacks, he finally trusts him. Pikachu finishes the battle with a move that shouldn't even affect Onix, cause he's ground type, and Red wins the badge. Next chapter opens on Misty getting her ass beat by a raging Gyarados. Then Red shows up and uses Bulbasaur to team up with her and take it down. Misty reveals that it's actually her Gyarados, and that it was stolen. By the time she found it, it was going totally berserk. Red calls Professor Oak about it, and he says it's likely the work of Team Rocket, who's finally formally introduced to Red. Oak says they're likely at Mount Moon looking for moonstones, so Red goes out to track them down, and Misty follows. Red and Misty enter Mount Moon, and Red uses Pikachu to light their way. He also references Mickey Mouse, so I guess Mickey Mouse exists. Eventually they finally run into Team Rocket, being led by totally not Koga. Red, Misty, and definitely not Koga battle, and Koga uses a syringe to force his Rhyhorn to evolve. Misty gets knocked out, and Red just barely is able to get away with the Moonstone. They say they're gonna use the Moonstone, but I don't know what Pokemon they're gonna use it on, because none of the Pokemon they have evolve with a Moonstone. Eventually the two get to Cerulean City, and we find out that Misty is filthy rich and has like 6 maids. Red and Misty have dinner, and Misty tells Red that they have to train because she's terrified of Team Rocket's power. Red blows her off, thinking that he's strong enough already, and then she storms away into her room. Later at night, Red is attacked by evil wind. In the morning, the maids say they want to see Red battle. When he says he's going to challenge the gym leader, they're like... Misty takes Red to the gym, but he finds it's empty, and Misty reveals that she's the gym leader, and she attacks Red. She has a little mental breakdown, and Red agrees that they in fact do need to train. We time skip to a few days later, and the training is over. Red and Misty part ways. The next chapter opens with Bill turning himself into a rat. Red is toting a bunch of freshly caught Pokemon, and he finds the Bill homunculus. Then a Fearow comes down and snatches Bill and his silly southern accent away. Red beats the Fearow with the power of Poliwhirl Impalement, and Red helps Bill restore himself to his normal human body. And then Bill helps Red out by storing his Pokemon for him. Red arrives at Vermillion City and calls the ocean a pool, like these wild animals that he has that have lived in nature don't know what the ocean is. He sneaks onto the SSN because he thinks it's cool, and he noticed that it's carrying some pretty weird stuff. Eventually he gets thrown out and then found by the chairman of the Pokemon fan club. The fan club gush over his Pokemon and they judge Red for battling with them. And the club tells Red that there's someone who's been kidnapping Pokemon around Vermillion City. Red puts two and two together and finds out that the captured Pokemon are on the ship. The chairman makes Red leave Pikachu behind so he can cuddle it, and he has to use Bulbasaur to lift him onto the ship, so he only has Poliwhirl. Red sneaks around the ship a bit, but eventually he's ambushed by Lieutenant Surge. Surge knocks Red around with a feral Electabuzz before Red eventually slips away. Red sneaks around the ship a bit more before walking directly into a trap. Poliwhirl gets tossed off the ship, and Red gets fried and also dumped into the water. Red remembers when he was a kid, and Poliwag evolved to save him from drowning. Now, surprise surprise, Poliwhirl has evolved into Poliwrath and saves Red again. Poliwrath, which still has a weakness to electric types, saves Red, takes down Lieutenant Surge and Electabuzz, and all the kidnapped Pokemon are returned to their owners, and then the chairman throws a fit because Abra evolved into Kadabra. Another indeterminate amount of time passes, and we next find Red entering a Pokemon triathlon. Him and some other racers are eventually blocked by Snorlax. The others are like, oh, I guess we gotta give up because we can't proceed in the race. But Red uses the honey that got spilt on Bulbasaur earlier when he was running away from Beedrill, and the Snorlax wakes up and chases him. Eventually, Red crosses the finish line with Snorlax close behind him, and then he catches it. This is the first time we see the Pokédex being used as an analog for game mechanics like HP bars. Another time skip, and Red finds himself in Lavender Town, where everybody is being a dick and ignoring him. Eventually, he's picked up by the one nice person left in Lavender Town, who is Mr. Fuji. He explains that the town has been plagued by ghosts. Red laughs it off, not believing in ghosts, but when he finds out that Blue went into the tower 2 weeks ago and never came out, he rushes in to try and figure things out. Red is then jumped by a bunch of actual rotting corpses that are controlled by a mist. And then Blue shows up, and he also attacks Red, seemingly controlled by the mist as well. After Red saves Blue, he storms off to find who turned him into a slave. Red follows, and then the two run into Koga again, who attacks them with an Arbok. Red is keen on leaving, but Blue stays and fights. Eventually, Blue takes advantage of Koga being outside the tower and literally kills his Arbok. Team Rocket leaves the tower, and Lavender Town is once again at peace. Volume 2 kicks off with Bulbasaur evolving into Ivysaur. Then a new character named Green appears and scams Red with phony items and her evil Riz. Red calls Oak and learns that Squirtle was actually stolen a while ago. Red runs into Green again later and tries to chase her down to get his money back. Green apparently has a Wartortle, and Red suspects that it could be the same Squirtle that got stolen. Red thinks he beat Green and got away with his money, but actually somehow she stole his badges. Later, Red finds out that Team Rocket is also hunting down Green, so he disguises himself as a grunt and blends in to hear their plans. Underneath the game quarter, Red finds out that Team Rocket is growing Mewtwo. Apparently she stole a disc containing information on Mew. Red follows the team to hunt her down, and then decides to save her at the last second. Red and Green team up and escape with the real disc, giving Team Rocket a fake one. Red tags along with Green to go try and catch Mew in order to keep it away from Team Rocket. Green uses the disc she got to hone in on Mew, and the two of them go try to catch it. Team Rocket interrupts, and Mew gets away. Although Green snuck some photos of Mew in the battle somehow, and she goes to sell them to the news. However, right before she leaves, she returns Red his badges. How nice of her. Swapping over to Blue's perspective, we see that he's won a rowdy Porygon from the game corner. It's seemingly in the same kind of rage that Gyarados was. Eventually, Red and Blue accidentally knock into each other and they get their Pokemon swapped. For the next 3 whole days, Blue and Red try to train the other's Pokemon in their own way. When fighting a Ninetales, Blue and Red reunite and they get their Pokemon back. They also do a little fighting over who actually gets to keep the Ninetales. When Blue gets his Machoke back, it evolves into Machamp, and Blue also toughened up Red's Pokemon with his hardcore way of training. Red arrives in Celadon City and runs into quote-unquote Lady Erica, who's being escorted by, like, the entire city. Red learns that she's a gym leader and tries to challenge her, but she won't have any of it unless he's proved himself, so she tells him to go catch an Eevee. After calling Bill, they use some tech to track it into the city. When fighting it, Red notices that Eevee is swapping between its evolutions at will. Eventually, when they defeat Eevee, Red and Bill notice that the Eevee has a little experimental thing in its ear. Red suspects that Erica is to blame. Red goes to the gym and confronts Erica, and the two battle. Erica seems to be the winner. Erica then says that she is going to kill Eevee, so Red pulls out all the stops and strains himself to protect it. After Erica sees Red straining himself for this creature he just met, she drops the ruse and tells Red the truth. In reality, Erica was testing Red's morals by pretending to be cruel. Brock and Misty had apparently told her about him, but she wanted to see it for herself. Eevee was not experimented on by Erica. It was actually Team Rocket, until Eevee escaped. Erica gives Red a badge and Eevee and sends him off to continue the fight against Team Rocket. Next we see Red. He's in the Safari Zone where he's not supposed to have normal Pokeballs, and he had snuck one in there. After using it to try and catch a Nidoking, but accidentally catching the Nidoqueen that they're fighting over, the Nidoking get pissed off and try to chase him. When entering the Safari Zone, they confiscated his Pokemon, so he's stuck with the robotic Pidgey guide. After some wandering through the woods trying to escape Nidoking, Red gets tangled up by a Victory Bell. The Safari Warden and Red's Pokemon see he's disappeared on the security cameras, and they go out to look for him. Using some more of his quick thinking, Red slips away from Victory Bell with the help of the Pidgeybot. The Nidoking that was chasing him shows back up, but Pidgey gives Red a special Safari's Ball, and he catches Victory Bell. He uses the Victory Bell to catch and tame a large majority of the Safari Zone Pokemon, before eventually meeting up with the Warden and his own Pokemon. In this chapter we actually saw a lot more instances of the Pokedex working like a Game Boy, and I don't know, I just think that's really cool. Yet another jump in location and time. We see Red in Diglett Cave leading a man he doesn't know is Giovanni through it. The two of them arrive back at Pewter City and want to go to the Pewter Museum to study the fossils, but somebody has set the museum on fire. The culprits are two Magmar. Giovanni, having heard of Red meddling in their affairs, decides to take this opportunity to see Red's skills in battle. Red doesn't fully defeat the Magmar, he only stops them. Before Red leaves, Giovanni gives him an old amber, and then he's on his way. Once Red is gone, he kills the Magmar, and then deems Red a non-threat to Team Rocket. Next, we see Red trying to get the Surf HM, when he's attacked by a Dragonite which was guarding it. Tries to use Pikachu and Snorlax to sneak to it, and eventually gets himself trapped under a rock. Luckily, Misty and Gyarados come to his rescue. Misty gives Gyarados to Red to help him cross the sea. Red crashes into the Seafoam Islands on Gyarados, and he finds Team Rocket trying to capture Articuno. When Gyarados sees Team Rocket again, he immediately just starts going full tweaker mode. Red has to let Team Rocket and Articuno escape in order to help Gyarados calm down. In the end, Gyarados becomes a fully fledged member of the team. Red finally arrives at Cinnabar Island, and he finds Team Rocket, again. Team Rocket is looking for someone who betrayed them, Blaine. Red and Blaine meet up, and they work together to escape Team Rocket. Team Rocket then sends Moltres after them. Blaine holds off Moltres as he sends Red to his secret lab on his Rapidash. In the lab, Rapidash shows Red the fossil reconstructor, and Red says a really lame horse pun. He uses it to revive Aerodactyl from the old amber. Red comes back in the nick of time with Aerodactyl to save Blaine, sending Team Rocket running. Blaine reveals that he was the one who created Mewtwo, and then he defected from Team Rocket trying to recapture it. Red and Blaine part ways, and we see Team Rocket has captured all 3 legendary birds. Both Blue and Green are refused entry into Saffron City. They both try to go over, and Blue uses his newly evolved Charizard. The city is walled off by a psychic barrier, so Blue leaves to see what his grandpa knows about the situation. Around the same time, Red arrives back in Pallet Town and goes looking for Professor Oak, but he finds an evil doppelganger instead. Evil Oak is actually revealed to be a Kadabra, being controlled by Sabrina. She tells Red to come to Saffron City if he wants to save the people of Pallet Town. Red and Blue meet at the destroyed lab and agree that this will be the final confrontation with Team Rocket. At the barrier, the two are at odds, trying to outdo each other in getting inside. Then Green steps in and tells the boys that they could do better if they cooperated. With Pikachu's substitute and Golduck's psychic, they track down the Mr. Mime that's making the force field and they take it out. Blue and Red rush into the Silphco building while Green sneaks in as well through the back. Red gets dropped through a trap door, separating the two and leaving Blue alone with Koga. Blue is immediately immobilized by Koga, and Red on the lower floor is attacked by Lieutenant Surge again. Red is pinned to the electric fence where Lieutenant Surge reveals that all the power for his Pokemon machines is coming from Zapdos. It turns out Team Rocket has been turning Pokemon into weapons and armor, and the gym leaders gave up their positions for this quote-unquote true power. In Koga's room, he tells Blue that he needs him to get Professor Oak to do what they want. Blue tries to fight back, and in return he is folded. Meanwhile, Green is sneaking into the third floor, and she's stopped by Sabrina. She says she'll have to face her worst fears, and we suddenly see the terrain change to be what looks like Johto. Green uses Ditto and Horsey to gain an advantage over Sabrina, meanwhile Red is still getting bodied. He sends out Ivysaur to cut up the wires on Surge's suit to try and fry him with his own electricity. Unfortunately, he's wearing rubber underwear. But that doesn't help for long, as he cuts that up too, and eventually he gets fried. Afterwards, Red takes the Thunder Badge off of Surge, as well as his gloves. Red shows up just in the nick of time to stop Blue from getting killed. Red and Blue then team up against Koga, with Koga using the Soul Badge to control Articuno and freeze them. Luckily, with Blue's Charizard, they thaw themselves and take down Koga, as well as lighting the building on fire. Red takes the Soul Badge, and then the two split up again, Red going to find Green, who he heard screaming earlier. Green takes out Sabrina with the power of fake Pokeball boobs, and she takes her badge. Red finds his way to a room with a mysterious object with slots for all the gym badges. This is a badge amplifier, and apparently it takes the previously stated magical power of the badges and amplifies them. Green shows up disguised as Sabrina and relays all that info to Red, except she lies about it amplifying a Pokemon's power. In reality, it makes a whole new Pokemon. Then the real Sabrina shows up, and she's pissed. Red tries to use it, and it does nothing. The gym badges she gave back to him were actually fake, and she runs off with the machine to go put the real ones in. Sabrina summons all the birds to her side, and just as Green puts in the badges, an orb comes out of it and flies into the room. Outside, we see Team Rocket grunts are fleeing the burning building, and the good gym leaders are securing the gates, making sure nobody escapes. The amplifier's energy fused all three birds into one freak Pokemon. Sabrina gloats about her power and how cool Giovanni is. Red uses his Moonstone and Green's Clefairy to evolve it into Clefable and deal some pretty good damage to Sabrina. Blue shows up and the three of them get flung out of the building, but Ivysaur saves them with its vine. During the final blast between the Freak Bird and the Pallet Town starters, Ivysaur finally evolved into Venusaur. I'd also like to note that this kinda looks like Triple Finish from Smash Bros. Red, Green, and Blue all take out Sabrina and free the legendary birds from the fusion. All of the Team Rocket members are captured except for Giovanni, who Red catches a glimpse of before he slips away. Blue says that he's looking forward to facing Red in the Indigo Plateau. In the next chapter, we see Blaine is having a nightmare about when Mewtwo escaped. Then we see Bill telling Red about the Beast of Cerulean City, and tells him not to go after it. Red was in fact going after it. He's attacked by Mewtwo's Psychic Twister and saved by Blaine. Blaine shows him his body horror arm and tells him how he made Mewtwo with his own cells. Blaine goes off to stop Mewtwo, likely to his death, while Red pleads to let him help. He dives into the center of the tornado, gravely injuring himself and Mewtwo. But Mewtwo stands back up and attacks Red with a spoon. Red uses his patent clever thinking to get Mewtwo into the Master Ball that Blaine gave him. Blaine's gore arm subsides a bit, and Red says that he should try and show Mewtwo some compassion. And Blaine remembers what it's like to be an honest Pokemon trainer. Then the two of them head off for the Indigo Plateau. Next, we see a little girl in Viridian Forest being attacked by a Dratini, who definitely shouldn't be there. Luckily, Red was passing through, and he saves her. Red then also helped the girl catch a Rattata to protect herself with. Red returns the girl to Vermillion City, and he learns that weird new savage Pokemon have been showing up in the forest. He also hears that the gym leader has been missing for a long time, which he already knew, but whatever. He goes to check out the gym, which is the same place where he and Oak found Bulbasaur. Inside, he's confronted by the ex-gym leader and the current Team Rocket leader, Giovanni. Red remembers him as the fossil guy. Red and Giovanni engage a battle, and Giovanni seemingly puts himself at a disadvantage. Giovanni says that if he loses to him, he'll have to work for Team Rocket for the rest of his life. Giovanni gets Red on the ropes with his strategy, and Red only has a few Pokemon left, but he sneakily lets out Aerodactyl with his foot. The battle is now fully moved outside. Giovanni taunts Red a bunch as he uses his Ground-type Pokemon to destroy Red's footing. Most of Red's Pokeballs are now broken, meaning they can't be let out and they're trapped in there, all except Pikachu somehow, who he has Charge Attack inside of its Pokeball to hit Giovanni before he thinks it can. Red resists the electricity because of the gloves he took off of Surge. Also, Giovanni was using a Nidoqueen, and that's a Ground-type, and that shouldn't have affected it, although it didn't stop him against Onix, so whatever. Red faints and is rescued and resuscitated by the little girl he saved earlier. The girl asks Red to teach the people of Vermillion City how to be a good trainer, and he agrees, only after he battles in the Indigo Plateau. We find Red, Green, Blue, and Dr. O, definitely not Professor Oak, all have passed into the Pokemon League prelims and entered the finals. The first match is Oak vs. Green, and he uses only flying types. Green tries to fight but is overwhelmed by her apparent fear of bird Pokemon. Oak tells her of how 6 years ago, a little girl was taken away by a legendary bird Pokemon. And it's definitely Ho-Oh. He went out to look for her, but he never found her. Turns out Green was from Pallet Town too, and when she heard Red and Blue had gotten Pokemon and Dexes from Oak, she thought it wasn't fair that she didn't get one. Green breaks down and Oak comforts her, finally giving her a Pokedex and his approval. Oak dropped out of the tournament, meaning it is just Red and Blue in the finals. Red and Blue start the duel with fury, Oak noting how each of them has taken lessons they've learned from each other to heart. 4 mysterious figures are watching carefully over the battle. Just when Red seems to be losing, he combines his main 3, Poliwrath, Pikachu, and Venusaur, the 3 he's had since the beginning, and he deals a devastating Thunder to Blue, winning him the match. The arc ends with Mew looking over a restored Pallet Town, and a recreation of the iconic Sugimori trainer art. So why do I think that this is the best adaptation of the Pokemon story? Well, it's the focus on character. In the games, and even in the anime, the focus is on the world, the journey, which works well for a game where you explore a world, but it breaks down when you try to tell an in-depth story. Pokemon's whole drive is its self-insertion. You are the trainer, you're on the journey, and you get to meet and battle other trainers in real life. However, when you try to tell a story in that world disconnected from the individual person, the lack of character creates issues with trying to make a narrative. Pokemon's biggest strength is also its weakness, in my opinion. The protagonist is nobody. Pokemon Adventures is different, though. Red and Green are people with a history and real character traits. Red is a spunky young trainer who learns to use his head and his heart, and Green is a lonely kid who survives the only way she knows how. My favorite example of this is the chapter where Red and Blue swap Pokemon. It shows just how different the methods of training Red and Blue have. Blue is a character from the games, obviously, and he acts basically the same that he does, but Red is his own person. You see how his training affects Blue's Pokemon. All this talk of character isn't to say that there's no world building. Sure, the manga depends on the fact that you're familiar with the games, but there are rules, and things happen in the world that you don't see on the page. The corruption within the gym leaders was actually meant to be a plot point in the original Red and Blue games. That's why some of them have whips in their in-game sprites. In fact, Pokemon's creator Satoshi Tajiri says Adventures is the most accurate to the world he was trying to convey. What helps the world feeling so real is the violence. The manga does not shy away from showing Pokemon and even humans take real damage and get hurt. And the fact that you know injury is a risk adds investment into the battles. Sometimes these aren't just spars for sport, these are fights for survival. The fights are especially well done, focusing way more on strategy than brute force like in most shonen manga. Although if you're familiar with Pokemon in depth, there can be things that don't quite make sense. Even if some of them don't make sense within strict Pokemon rules, the fights still feel interesting and they all have their own unique way of resolving. Speaking of resolving things in unique ways, let's talk about the differences from the original games. For starters, Red takes a pretty normal path through the locations, but his encounters and battles are different from what happens in the games, especially once he leaves Cerulean City. Red only actually earns 3 gym badges from battling the leaders in a gym. The rest are kept by the evil leaders for their little rocket experiments. Another note is that the Earth badge is nowhere to be seen, and it isn't even needed for the badge amplifier. The League and the badges seem to be disconnected as well. They don't seem to really have any play in getting into the Indigo Plateau, and the Elite Four don't show up except for a small cameo. In my opinion, these were necessary changes for the plot. As I said, the game really doesn't have a story, and these tweaks and additions make the plot more interesting to follow. I also think some of these differences come from the manga having insight on the early development of Pokemon. Things like a boss fight with Professor Oak and having a female trainer. I'm willing to bet some of the differences were originally going to be part of the main game. Red and Blue had such a rocky development, I'd be willing to believe that most of Pokemon Adventures was written before all those changes were solidified. I cannot recommend these books enough. I really wish Pokemon would create an animated adaptation to reach a larger audience. The things this manga introduced add so much more to the characterization of everything in the world of Pokemon. Though, the story doesn't end here. The manga is actually still ongoing to this day. However, these 3 volumes are a complete story, and I think it's important to see them as that as well as part as a whole. Of course, if there's demand for it, I'll continue covering the arcs, so if you want to see me talk about the Yellow arc, which comes next, make some noise in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching this long-ass video. I hope you enjoyed me breaking down the story and you want to see more.